Hi there, this is my friend Paul's Martini Turbo, and today I'm going to do some upgrades. Sorting out some upgraded headlight bulbs, cleaning up all the lenses, the reflectors, getting that sorted. But the biggest job that we're doing, and the main point of this video, is to fit a new fuse panel here. A fuse panel from our friends at Classic Retrofit, which includes relays for the headlights, so that we'll up the power that goes to the headlamp bulbs and gives Paul the improved lighting that he requires. Enjoy. Okay, what I need to do now is get this car turned around into the garage so that I can start working on it. So, as I said in the intro, the aim of the game is to replace this fuse panel here with one of these. So, give me a little close up there. This is from Classic Retrofit. This is a replacement panel which utilises blade fuses rather than the old sort of ceramic, I don't know what you'd call them actually, these ceramic old style cylindrical fuses. So these give quite a few problems for reliability. And Paul's got a few big trips coming up. He's going off to Norway again soon, and he may be going down to Sicily as well. So he's got some big trips coming up and would like some reliability and some good headlights for those evening drives. These two relays here, they really improve the headlamp capabilities by getting the volts, the electricities, let's call them, from the battery through to the headlight wiring as in a most direct route with the less amount of connections. So at the moment the headlight wiring has to go through the switch that's on the wiper stalk, so there's lots of losses that then mean that the voltage that gets to the headlamp bulbs can be as much as sort of 1 or 2 volts down from the battery, which really reduces the light output from those bulbs. So this is key to getting the higher performance out of the headlamps, and also improving the reliability of the car, because we've got reliable connections on these blade fuses rather than these cylindrical type ceramic fuses. Okay, things to do before you touch anything. Take all the carpets out, get those out, and make sure that everything's working. So things like wipers, lights, obviously the engine's running, any other bits, make sure they're working. Electric windows, sunroof, everything was working on this car apart from this side light bulb. So I made sure that it was just the bulb and not the wiring that was the issue, because replacing the fuse panel will fix things, but you'll be in a much better place if everything's working to start with. So it may be that you've got one of these connections maybe loose, and that's your problem, why it's not working. Fine, make sure that is sorted before you start delving into replacing the fuse panel. Okay, so first steps then. In the instructions from Classic Retrofit, they recommend going through and just undoing all of these screws. So it's a case of just untweaking them, make sure that they will all come loose, because they could have been done up for 30 odd years and never been undone before. So give those all a little tweak all the way along. So I've just done the first few there, but I'm going to carry on doing all of these. Okay, so this one's been a difficult one, and that's quite telling actually, because you might have noticed that the other fuse there fell out. I think these are both to do with the fuel pump relays. This one particular is almost seized in there, so I'm going to get a pair of pliers on that so that I can then get the screwdriver in there and to unseize it. So I'm just going to hold that like so, I can get the screwdriver in there. Oh, no, that does not want to undo. So that wire doesn't look in its best life actually. So I'm going to actually chop that off and strip that back because it's not looking so great in there. So that one we will fix. Okay. So I think before we do anything else, we're going to get all of our fuses installed. So we need to do this with a little bit of checking out what fuses we've got in here, and also checking on the back of the fuse box panel that tells you what fuses should go where. Okay, so on the back of the fuse panel cover, we've got some descriptions that show you which fuse does which. In the little bag of fuses, you'll find these little plastic washers. There's plastic pillars. There are 4 of those. So we just need to put those aside for now. I've got my manual, which gives me all my fuses, gives me all my fuse types, how they relate to the fuses that are in here, what number fuse they are, and then how many amps. So I'm going to populate the fuse box. So let's fit these fuses. How can I put this? Porsche tried to confuse you. So on the fuse blocks here, you'll see that there's numbers behind these fuses. I think it starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then from this end, you've got a little fuse box, which is 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in fact, there's 3 like fuse holders here. As they've added on extra circuits over the years, they've added extra fuse boxes. So the numbering here on the actual fuse and the numbering on the fuse cover that shows which one's which doesn't actually relate to the numbers that are in the manual. So I just look at the manual and think that number 1 starts here all the way up to number 21. And that is the way to do it. So don't take any notice of the numbers actually on the fuse panel or the cover, but this is number 1 all the way up to the high number, and that's what the manual says there. So number 1 is the fog lights, which I know is this front one here, and then we'll work all the way forward. So fog light needs 16 amps. So these old ceramic fuses come in 16 amp, 8 amp, 5, maybe 2.5, but the blade fuses are slightly smaller, so these are 15 rather than 16. So you just go for the closest one. So we know that we want a 16 in the first fuse position there. Then for the license plates, we need a 5, which is the brown one. So pop that in. Then we've got another couple of 5s. These are for the front and rear parking lights, left and right. I won't bore you with the rest of them, so I'll carry on and populate the fuses as per the manual from the car. Okay, so we've got all of our fuses fitted, ready to rumble. I got it wrong earlier when I said that this was the fuel pump. It's not. That's the air conditioning wire there. The fuel pump is this one here, but this is one that always causes issue on these old type fuse panels, so it'd be good to get that replaced. Okay, next we shall undo all of the screws here, ready to take the wires. So just loosen off all of those screws. So we'll just go in there and back those out, take them as far out as you can without them falling out, just so that you can see in there that they are out. So I'm going to do that to all of the screws. Again, I won't bore you. Those screws are now undone, so they're still in the holders, but they're loosened off as much as you can so that they're ready to take the wires. next thing we need to do is to disconnect the battery. On Paul's car here, he's got a great little thing, which is a little thumb wheel that you undo. I think you can get these on Amazon, places like that. And that just disconnects the battery. So a little quick release that disconnects the battery, which is great for when the car's put away for a few weeks. So there's no load on the battery, no way that that can go down. So you just need to tighten that back up once you get back to the car, and shouldn't have any problems with the battery. Well worth doing. Okay, next thing is to start doing some wiring. And what we're going to actually do first is just to pop this panel, tie wrap this panel loosely in this position, so that we can then bring wires up straight into the connections. Now, what we're going to do is just loosen the screws that hold these fuse panels on. We can actually pop a few of these fuses out of the way and just loosen these screws. So I think there's 6 in all. So we're just going to loosen those all off. Make sure they're ready to come. You've got 2 on each fuse panel. Oh, that one was pretty undone already. Okay, that's nice and loose. Before we go any further, we're going to take some pictures. Take some pictures of where all of these wires are at the moment, for reference really. Hopefully we won't need to use those pictures, but at least if we drop any wires and we forget where they go, we've got some reference. Make sure you get a couple of good pictures. And I would always recommend a little video as well, because that can be really useful. Sort of move that along, making sure that you see from different angles. So say that, like that one there, we've got 3 wires going in. It's quite easy to get those mixed up and to drop one out and not be able to see it properly in a picture. But with a video, you can pause it at any point, putting in different angles, so you can see what's going on. You've probably got a better record than a still picture. So yeah, we're going to cable tie the new fuse panel to the old panel, just loosely. So pop a cable tie down the back of the fuse panel there, bring the new one up, and we're going to just pop that on there, do it up so that you can see just loosely, so you can see both the old fuse panel and the new fuse panel connections. And do one over here as well. I'm just going to drop that down, put it through at the back, through there. As I said, just line that up so that you're ready to drop these wires down into the new connections on the new fuse panel. So first wire, that's undone. We can undo this one fully now. Obviously we cracked that off easy earlier just to make it easier to get out. Now there's not much length on this fuse panel on this wiring loom. I think when I did mine it had a little bit more length to it, so I'm just going to leave that one to the side at the moment and hope that the rest have got more. So this has got quite a lot of wires coming out of here. There we go, you can see there's a bit more length on this one. So we're going to pop those 3 into the new fuse panel. When there's 3 wires like this, it can be quite a struggle to get them in. You have to fight them a little bit. But they are in, so I can tweak that up. There we go, first one done. So, got to work away all along the way, doing all of these. If there's any particular troublesome ones I come to, or anything key that I need to show you, then I will stop and show you. But otherwise, I'll carry on going. Okay, it's going well. I've got the majority of the wires transferred over from the old fuse panel to the new fuse panel on the top. There's a few that are a little short. So what I'll be doing is taking some notes on those along with some photos so that I can undo those, drop the old fuse panel out, put the new fuse panel back into position, and then the wires will reach. A quick note, this H1, don't confuse that with one of the connections that go to the fuses. I did, and then realised when I got up here that I then needed to put all of these along. So just make sure that you don't put any wires into that H1 for now. So yeah, that's my next plan of action. I had to put a couple of new ferrules on. So this one here, really large wire. The old ferrule was quite crushed. So I needed to take the old crushed one off and put a new ferrule on, and also put a new ferrule on here. I just used one of these little kits, and it comes with one of these little crimpers. A really nice little kit. I think I just bought it off of Amazon. But it just finishes off the wires. Make sure that you get a good connection. So yeah, next thing I'm going to do is to take some notes and then disconnect these wires, and then drop that fuse, the old fuse panel down, cut these wires, and then I can get this new fuse panel in position and start working on the lower connections. So I'm going to cut my cable ties. And I can pull this panel up out the way like that. As I said, I've loosened those extra little ones that were really tight, and I've taken notes on a little bit of paper so I know exactly where they go. And now I can undo this fuse panel and drop that down out of the way. So I'm just going to undo finally those 6 screws, pull those out. There's one. 2, 3, 4, 5 and number 6. We'll only be using 4 of those screws going forward because there's only 4 holes in the panel. Now we can drop down this old fuse panel. There we go. Put that down like so. And then we can get our new fuse panel in and just connect up those tight wires that I had. Let's bring those forward. Pop that down in there. We'll just put that green and white one. So, and then I'm just going to connect up these additional ones here. So we've got this green and black, goes to green and black on number 10. Don't take too much notice of my wire colours that I'm calling out, because it may well be different on your own car. As you can see, access is tight, especially when you've got 3 wires going into one spot. Be quite a challenge. Patience and persistence. All top wires are in. It's a very tight wiring harness on this car. I know this car's been apart in the past, so I guess whoever put it back together made it a bit tight. So what we're going to do now is fit this little gasket behind the fuse panel, and then screw the fuse panel onto the base. These little plastic spacers just push into the gasket like so, and they kind of hold themselves in place. We'll put that behind the fuse panel like so, the fuse panel into place and then just pop those screws in. Right, I have got that located. A little bit of fight, but we got there. We've got made sure we've got all of our spacers in between the screws and around the screws and between the fuse panel and the backing panel, and we've got our gasket in there. So the little spacers regulate what height that the fuse panel should be from this panel, and make sure that it doesn't go down too tight. Got the little gasket in there to be an insulator. So top row is done. I'll now move on to the bottom row. As I said, this car is really tight as far as the wiring is concerned, so we'll be having to do a bit of a struggle to get those undone and across. Final stage complete. So I've got all of the bottom cables connections into the bottom of the fuse box. So in Classic Retrofit's instruction, they actually say that you do the bottom first and then the top last. I found it was better in my case because this was so tight. The loom was so tight that it was actually easier to do the top first and then the bottom. I think it really depends on your situation. Took my time. That's the big thing. Take your time, make lots of notes, take lots of photographs and those little videos as well, so that you can stop the video and look, because you could have one wire hiding behind the other. As I said before, with these connectors, they are tighter than the original connector, so you do need to either take off the ferrules that are already on the wires and just go in with a bare wire, or go in with a new ferrule, so that it's a smaller diameter. It's just marginal, but it's something that makes it a little bit more difficult to do. It's not a pure swap in. It just takes a little time where you've got multiple cables in to get that diameter down. Car's working. I've checked all of the systems, everything's working. So yeah, very pleased with how it's gone. And let's hope that gives the reliability that Paul needs, because he's going to be doing loads of road trips this year, and also with the two relays that we've got here will give better lighting from the headlights, due to that the power loss not happening. My car in the garage now. Paul's is all complete and up and running. So I thought I'd take you through a couple of extra features of this fuse panel. So what we can do is we can do some diagnosis with this little panel. It's got these LEDs that are just in there between the fuse holder and the connection point. So I've got the side lights on here. If I take one of these fuses out, you'll see my side light went off and this little LED came on. So say this fuse had blown, I would then be able to see which fuse had blown on the fuse panel, and why my side light wasn't working. So great little additional diagnosis thing there. You can also do other diagnosis. So if you take one of these fuses out and then you're testing, say, a wiper stalk, you can do some tests with it. As long as that's powered up, you'll see the LEDs, and you'll be able to see the operation of those switches. So you can do some really good stuff with sort of diagnosis of things once you've got this panel fitted. One thing that you should be aware of is that the ground for this panel is taken through this screw here, through this panel, and then into the car body. You need to make sure that there is a good ground through that path. Sometimes when maybe the car's been over restored and this has been fully powder coated, this part here, there is no ground path through because of the paint is so thick. So you need to make sure that paint is cleared off around that hole, and that there's a good ground path. If you're still having issues with ground, you could take a ground wire from one of these screw fixings to a ground point on the chassis of the car. I'm running uprated headlight bulbs in this car. So what you do need to do in that instance, if you're taking advantage of that functionality, is to add this extra wire. So this goes to the terminal that's marked H, and that goes directly to the positive side of the battery, and that gives you the extra power that these relays can now make good use of to get to the headlights. I should also point out there's a great video on Classic Retrofit's YouTube channel. On there, it goes through the design of this panel, reasons for its design, why it's got these particular types of fuses, how the panel's made, and also goes into the detail. The last thing is getting the panel back on. So the panel needs a little bit of trimming. I don't know if you can see there. I've just trimmed out a little piece of this panel here. And that's to clear this part of the fuse panel PCB. So when you've got the panel on, there's always a little bit of a sod to get in. You get those in at the bottom, clips in at the top, and you can see that now there's the clearance there for that PCB. That concludes the fitting of the Classic Retrofit fuse panel into Paul's car. And you can see it's in my car here as well. Both of us are very pleased with it. It has definitely helped with reliability. I've seen that definitely with my car, because I was having some problems with fuel pump relay, and really improved the headlight functionality along with the uprated headlamp bulbs. Both myself and Paul can now see down the road, which is fantastic. So yeah, thank you to the guys at Classic Retrofit. Hope you enjoyed and found this video helpful. Please like, subscribe, and also pop some comments down below if you enjoyed the video and if you can help in any way.